Thank you, Wayne Public Library and VegMichigan, for inviting us to do this. Marc and I are really excited to share these recipes with you. So here's what you can expect. First, we're going to make some sloppy joes. Then we're going to make coleslaw with a sweet and tangy dressing. And for dessert, we're going to make cookie dough balls. We are starting with the sloppy joes. So I'm going to start heating up our pot here. The first step is to dice up a bell pepper. And just to give you a little bit of info about the things I do and what works for me, I know that a bell pepper can look kind of like a strange thing to try to cut into small pieces. What I do is I sort of cut off what I like to call the hat. And then I just, with my fingers, I pull out the seeds and the white pithy part on the inside. And then I, with my fingers, just work out the stem and the hat part. And one thing I find helps, especially with picky eaters, is to cut things like crunchy vegetables into small pieces. People seem to like the food better when those things are cut into small pieces, and those pieces are kind of similar in size. That really helps. So I'm going to try to make my knife go a little quietly so you can hear me talk. So I'm going to cut these probably about the size of a square centimeter seems to work for us. If you're trying to get people in your family, your loved ones, or your friends to enjoy eating veggies more, that is a tip that can really go a long way, is if you cut the veggies down into small pieces. So I'm going to do that. Bell peppers are actually a fruit because they have seeds and they blossom. And years ago we had a garden, and I sort of discovered by accident that all the different colors of bell pepper can come from the same plant, and it's just a matter of ripeness. So if you have a bell pepper growing and it's green and you pick it, that's fine. You can use it that way. It has a nice sort of strong, almost bitter flavor. But if you leave it on the plant, it starts to ripen more and turns yellow or gold or red. And as it ripens, it gets sweeter. And they're full of vitamin C, and of course we have the fiber. So that makes it a good choice too. It's kind of nice with this too if you have people who don't like veggies, because the onion and the bell pepper sort of disappear in that nice sloppy joe mixture. So it's a good way to get some picky eaters to eat their veggies too. So I'm just going to keep cutting this. You'll notice when I start to saute the bell pepper that we don't use oil. You know how a lot of recipes start by saying saute your onion in 2 tablespoons of olive oil. We're not completely oil-free, but when I saute veggies, I don't use oil anymore. I use water or veggie broth, and that seems to work really well. It's really easy, and it's a good way to reduce the amount of oil we take in. The reason we try to reduce the amount of oil we eat is it goes back to battling Marc's type 2 diabetes, and he's kind of the expert and the person who went through that. So I'm going to ask him to come in here with me if he doesn't mind. He's my cameraman. So would you please explain why avoiding oil and going low fat helps with insulin resistance?
Yeah, sure. So one of the things when we first adopted this lifestyle, like Kim said, I was diabetic for 10 years, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, psoriasis all over my scalp, heartburn all the time. I was obese, I didn't sleep well. I just had a whole slew of chronic conditions that over time and year over year just kept getting worse. And I was taking Lentils insulin shots twice a day, 4 oral medications for all these conditions. And again, it just kept getting worse every year. And so we ended up watching Forks Over Knives, the documentary. Hopefully many of you have heard of that. If not, look it up, but it's called Forks Over Knives. And that documentary led us to Dr. Neil Barnard. And Dr. Neil Barnard has a book, it's called Dr. Neil Barnard's Program for Reversing Diabetes. And basically in that book, he talks about how too much fat inside our muscle cells and tissues They call it intramyocellular lipid, or fat inside your muscle cells and tissues. I'm not talking about the fat around our belly, right? I'm talking about actually inside your muscle cells and tissues. There's too much fat accumulation, and what that does is it really starts to make the signaling process between insulin, the hormone that takes the glucose out of our blood and basically injects it into our muscle cells and tissues to burn off as energy. It basically makes that signaling process, it disrupts it. And so it allows too much glucose or sugar to ultimately end up in our blood, and eventually people end up being pre-diabetic and then type 2 diabetic. But so once we learn to eat this way, eat a whole food plant-based lifestyle, the 4 main food groups that we eat out of are all the fruits, all the vegetables, all the grains, and all the legumes or bean fat. And so when you're eating these foods and you're not cooking them in oil, you're not eating all the really high fat foods. And so because of that, you're able to, your body, we're eating low fat food. That fat that's inside our muscle cells and tissues drains out, and now we become much more insulin sensitive and less insulin resistant. So that's how we were able to reverse basically my type 2 diabetes. So oils are 100% fat. The animal products have a ton of fat in them as well. A lot of junk foods, processed foods as well. So we avoid those foods and we stick to whole food plant-based eating. So hope that helps.
Yeah, and so as you can see, I just put the bell pepper in the pot.
Do you need help with that, or one the other way?
You can help me with that. So what I've done is, this is how I saute veggies. I keep a cup of water right next to the pot, and when they start to stick a little bit, or they look like they're starting to caramelize, I don't want them to burn, of course. What I do is I add water or veggie broth, about a tablespoon at a time, to prevent them from sticking. For this recipe, I'm using just water instead of veggie broth because the sauce for this Sloppy Joe is filled with flavor from all the veggies and the spices we're going to use. So you really don't need the extra flavor from the veggie broth. But, you know, if I have a more plain recipe, I do like to use veggie broth. And I like it better than using oil because the veggie broth does add flavor. And, you know, when we first started, I felt like if I cooked without oil, I was sort of cooking wrong. And I felt really uncomfortable about it. So what I did is I would just measure out half a teaspoon of oil. And I would add that. And then I would add water or veggie broth. And eventually I realized that I didn't need that little bit of oil at all. So now I am going to dice up the onion. Yeah, if you think it's starting to stick, you can add the water. I'm going to try to cut the little pieces to be about the same size as the bell pepper, kind of small. That makes it more pleasant to eat. So if you have some picky eaters, or you have people in your family or your friends who aren't too crazy about eating this way, something you can do that will make it more attractive to them is to get them involved. And you can get them involved, you know, at the shopping stage when you're grocery shopping. You can get them involved when you're thinking about what recipes to make or thinking about what to make for dinner. And also get them involved in the kitchen. One of the tricks I use with my kids and with Marc still is as they're walking by or walking through, I'll say, would you just give that a stir? And sometimes I'll ask them to give it a taste test. And I'll ask, you know, do you think it needs more spice? Do you think it needs more garlic? And just that little bit of effort makes them appreciate it more. You know, it's just kind of human nature. When you have a little bit of effort or a little bit of time invested in something, you naturally appreciate it more. And also, it gives them a little bit of sense of control if they feel like they're in the decision making about what to buy and what to make. That can really go a long way. So I'm going to go through here. I see some chunks of onion are not small enough, so I'm just going to get those.
It smells really good in here.
It does. I wish you could smell it. It starts to smell so good right away. So what you need to do is let the onions cook, the bell pepper cook for about 3 minutes, and I can see they're kind of getting brighter, and that's what you want to see. I'm gonna let them cook just another minute before I add the onion. And
what's the deal with the different colors of bell peppers?
oh, I already talked about that.
You did?
Oh yeah,
Right.
as they get riper,
They turn colors?
they turn
Okay.
colors and they change flavor and get more mild. But thank you for bringing that up, Mark.
Sorry, I was focused.
I know he's got all the techie stuff he has to take care of, so he's doing a really good job with all that.
Yeah.
So another thing I can talk about while we're letting our bell pepper and our onions saute, I'm gonna add the onion now, is a system we like to call good, better, best. And the whole point of this system is I don't want you to feel like you have to be perfect when you're trying to eat vegan or plant-based. Every step in the right direction helps and it counts. So to give you an example, for this recipe, what would be good, better, best is what we're using instead of the ground beef and the sloppy joes. And I would call this, I'm gonna bring it up so you can see it. This is a product that we're using today. It's Light Life Smart Brown Plant-Based Crumbles. It's non-GMO, but it is kind of a processed product. So that's good. It's good because it's better than eating meat. It's very low in fat. It only has 1.5 grams of fat per serving. It has no saturated fat. And so that's a lot better than eating ground beef. It's also a lot better for the environment and, of course, for animals. So that's good. What might be better, if, especially if you've been vegan or plant-based for a while and you're trying to eat that way but even healthier, is to substitute lentils for the ground beef. And so what would be better is maybe buying some pre-made lentils in a can or in a package in the produce department. What would be best is if you boil your own lentils and you buy some organic, maybe locally grown lentils that are non-GMO and you cook them from scratch. Any of those categories are okay. In fact, if all you're doing most of the time is good, that's good enough. In fact, when we transitioned to eating this way, it was very new to us, and it was a big change. And most of the time, all we could do was the good category. I wasn't always cooking from scratch, and I was buying some things that were pre-made. And Marc still was able to realize wonderful health benefits just by doing that. So don't let perfection get in the way of progress. If all you can do is good, that's good enough, and be happy with that, and give yourself a pat on the back. I also like products like this because they can be a great strategy for people who want to start eating more veg, but they're missing meat. I like to call them transitional foods. They really come in handy for that. And as you'll see in a minute, this looks very similar to ground beef. And when you add it with a lot of flavors and sauces, it's hard to tell the difference.
Yeah,
So,
this recipe, folks, being a meat eater and having played football at Michigan, steaks and animal products were all over the place. When it comes to the foods I ate for the longest time. And in fact, if you would have told me 9 years ago or almost 9 years ago that I would not be eating steaks or tacos or steak fajitas, I would tell you you're nuts. There's no way. But now that we have been living this way, immediately what we really realized was it's the spices, it's the rubs, it's the sauces that really give these foods the flavor. And so I still eat tacos, I still eat fajitas, I still eat
sloppy joes.
We've tweaked a few of the ingredients. All the spices, all the flavors are still there, and so you don't miss anything. So give it a try. Keep an open mind, and you might be amazed how good the food tastes with all these different spices.
Yeah, and so what I'm doing now is chopping 2 cloves of garlic. When the onions start to get translucent, I add the chopped up garlic. And what I do is I smash the garlic cloves to kind of rough them up and release their juices and their flavor so you get more flavor out of it. So those are ready. Looks like the onion just needs another minute before I add this. And now I'm going to do the jalapenos. I'm going to chop about 2 tablespoons of jalapeno. we like spice. Marc likes things very spicy. So this is something that you can adjust based on what you enjoy. Of course, you don't have to add the jalapeno at all if you don't like spice. But if you love it, you can add even more than the 2 tablespoons.
Put the whole thing in there.
He would, but I couldn't do that. A little tip about cutting veggies. When you cut, try to hold your fingers like this. Don't hold them flat out because then you could cut the tips of your fingers. You don't want to do that. It's safer if you curl your fingers. Also, the only time I've cut myself while cooking is when I look up from the cutting board. So I'm trying hard to keep my gaze down while I talk to you, because you want to keep your eye on the prize. You want to watch what you're doing so you don't cut yourself. And let's see if those onions are starting to look translucent. They are. So now I will add the garlic and the jalapenos, and you're only gonna cook that for about 30 seconds because you don't want the garlic to burn. If garlic cooks too long, it gets very bitter. So what I'm going to do before I add it is get the next step ready. So here are those veggie crumbles. Now, if you're using lentils, you could substitute about 1.5 cups of lentils instead of using this product. This product is made from soy, but there are others out there made from gluten and things like that. So you can find one that works for you or use lentils. And I'll get that ready. We're going to crumble that in a second. And then I have all the spices right here. So we're ready. Let's go ahead and put the jalapeno and the garlic in. And you'll notice you can start to smell the garlic in a few seconds. It smells really good. So now, give that just a few seconds, and I go ahead and I'm going to add the veggie crumbles now. And I just squeeze it with my hand and crumble it right in. You can always use this product for other things like making meatballs. You could make spaghetti sauce with this crumbled in your spaghetti sauce if you like. It really goes over well with people who still eat meat too, sometimes for parties and tailgates and get-togethers. I'm just going to rinse my hands. You use this because even people who still eat meat like it, and that way we can all eat, we can all enjoy it. So I'm going to let Marc continue stirring for me. It's so nice to have this help. And I will get the spices ready. Now, something that I like to call the secret ingredient for these sloppy joes is the Montreal steak seasoning. And I try to get the low sodium version when I can, but it's not always available. This time I have the regular, but that's good too. And as we were talking about, as you were trying to get used to getting away from animal products, but maybe you miss the flavors, using products like this can help too, because oftentimes it's what we do to meat that makes it taste good. The sauces and the spices and the rubs. And if you use those same flavors with vegetarian and vegan options, you can still enjoy the flavors you used to like, and you don't feel like you're missing out. So that's another tip that can help you get over the transition. So I'm going to add a tablespoon of the steak seasoning. That really gives it a good taste. And I'm also going to add a teaspoon of garlic powder. I have found if you're making something savory and it doesn't taste like it has enough flavor, you can always add a little garlic powder or onion powder to flavor it up. That helps a lot. And I'm going to add a teaspoon of onion powder. Yeah, and as you go along, go ahead and add that water about a tablespoon at a time. I say a tablespoon at a time because you don't want it to get real soupy. I'm going to snoop in there and put the onion powder in. And now, another sort of secret ingredient that we use with meat products is Worcestershire sauce. We used to use this on steak a lot, or if I would make a roast, sometimes I would use Worcestershire sauce. Now, not all Worcestershire sauce is vegan. Some of them have anchovies, so you just have to read the label and check. I bought this one on Amazon. And again, it gives you that flavor that you associate with meat. Tablespoon of that. And now I'm going to add some maple syrup. I know that might seem like a kind of a strange thing to add, but we are adding a lot of tomato to this dish in a minute. And as you know, tomato can be a little acidic, and the maple syrup helps balance that. The sweet works well with the acid. I like to use maple syrup instead of sugar because it has more flavor than sugar, and also it has some phytonutrients. So real maple syrup. You know, I prefer to use that and not, you know, the other kinds that are really corn syrup with some artificial flavoring. Real maple syrup has some good qualities that I like. So there we go. We are going to let that heat for about 5 minutes and on low. And while that's happening, I'm going to get the tomato products ready. Now, tomatoes, when you cook them, they become really rich and warm, and they make this dish very satisfying and rich and filling. And tomatoes have lycopene. Lycopene is a phytochemical that's protective against cancer. And when you cook tomatoes, you release the lycopene from the tomato cells, and that allows our bodies to use the lycopene to its full advantage. So you can feel good about using a lot of tomatoes in this sloppy Joe recipe. It'll help your immune system, and it'll help protect against cancer too. This is kind of where we get into another good, better, best thing. I have issues with high blood pressure, so I really try to reduce salt where I can. And there's a lot of sodium hiding in tomato products that are jarred and canned, you know, like spaghetti sauces and soups and things like that. So this tomato sauce is from Kroger. It has no salt added. Sometimes it's hard to find no salt added tomato products. So when I do, that's like the number one thing I look for. But you go ahead and look for what's important to you. You know, some other people might think it's more important that it's organic or that it comes in a better container. That's why I'm using this tomato sauce, because it has no salt added. And there is some salt in the other things we're using, so I didn't want to add any more. That's smelling really good, isn't it?
It smells so good.
I was hungry when we started, so.
I wish you all were here, because
Yeah.
at the end of this, we're going to chow down, and I wish you could taste it with us, because it's really, really good.
That's how we'll. So I have the tomato sauce open. We'll give this mixture another minute just to let all those spices and the Worcestershire sauce and the maple syrup kind of penetrate those veggie crumbles and give it a good flavor. Spices have a lot of antioxidants too. So that's another healthy thing going into this recipe. And the spices can get kind of pricey, but I have found if you buy your spices at international stores, or even in the international sections of grocery stores, you can get a lot more for your money. It's a better value. So do that if you're shopping for spices. You can get a really good value by going to, like, you know, a Mexican mercado or an Asian market, or even the Asian section of the grocery store. For instance, we like to buy sesame seeds, and I found if you get sesame seeds in the spice aisle, you might get a little bottle of this. But if you get sesame seeds in the Asian section, you can get a big container for a lot less money. So check that out. And another thing, you know, tomato paste can come in tubes, or you can often find these little containers like this. And I rarely use the whole can. So what I do, I'm going to open my freezer and show you here really quick. When I have the leftover tomato paste, I spoon it out in like tablespoon sizes, and I put it on wax paper or parchment paper, and I put it in Tupperware in the freezer. I hope you can see that. And that way it doesn't go to waste. And when I need a tablespoon of tomato paste for soup or something like that, I can just pop it out. And I don't have to open a brand new can. So that's another tip to help you try to save money and to not waste food. Let's see how we're doing here.
It looks really good.
It does. It looks really good. So I'm going to follow along the recipe with you guys and make sure I do it the way it's written. Now we're going to add the tomato sauce. You want to go ahead and do that, sir?
Sure.
And I'm going to get the tomato paste ready. We'll need 3 tablespoons of tomato paste. And there's 1, 2, and 1 more. There we go. So later on, I'm going to do that trick and put that away in the freezer, but I'll just clear this out of the way. And now what you want to do is let that simmer and cook for about another 5 minutes or so. And you can let it cook longer if you like, but you can see it comes together pretty quickly. And it's a crowd pleaser. It tastes really good. I'll turn that down. Okay, there we go. And we're just gonna let that simmer. Now let's talk about the buns. Let me grab our package here. So this can be another example of the good, better, best. Best would be if you make your own buns at home and you can use whole grain and you won't have any preservatives. But that's a lot of work, and most people don't cook their bread items or bakery items from scratch like that because it's very time consuming. But if you love to do it and you have the time, you know, that's wonderful, go for it. Something more middle of the road might be a product like Food for Life Company makes Ezekiel bread products, and those are preservative free. They are made from sprouted grains instead of flour, so that's nice. They're usually in the frozen section of grocery stores because they don't have preservatives and the stores want to make them last, so you can find them there. But another thing you can do if you live in our area, I found on Aunt Millie's website that Aunt Millie's products, if they don't have any honey, and if you see the parve symbol on it, that means they're sort of accidentally vegan. So that comes in really handy whether you're looking for bread or bagels or hamburger or hot dog buns. And usually that parve symbol is, I'll bring it close here so you can see it. It's usually right near the front where the words and the labeling is. It's usually pretty easy to find. So that's what we have today. I go for the whole grain items when I can. But if you didn't want to use a bun, you don't have to. You could even use the sloppy joes and stuff it in a bell pepper, or you could serve it on a bed of lettuce, something like that. So you have a lot of options when it comes to serving it up. Now, while we let this simmer, I'm going to give it another stir. Let me see what time it is. I want to make sure we get through all the recipes. So let's move on to the coleslaw. Yeah, if you'd like, Mark, thank you. You know, you can just kind of move it all down that way. Thank you, sir. So when we made this trio of recipes for the students at Wayne State Medical School, what they started to do was put the coleslaw in with the sloppy joes. So they would, you know, have the bun, have the sloppy joe mixture, they put a layer of coleslaw on top, and then they put the top on. I thought that was genius. I never thought to do that. You know, I've seen it done, but I don't know why. I never thought of combining those recipes myself. So that's another thing you could do. And we have noticed that because this sloppy joe recipe is so rich and tomatoey, it's really nice to have a fresh, crisp veggie with it. Sometimes we'll just use, you know, a bunch of veggie slices like cucumber slices and carrots and things like that. But coleslaw works well too. And it's a great way to work in some leafy greens and cruciferous veggies. into your life. Now, a lot of people, we help people transition to being vegan or plant-based, and the number one thing they request is they need convenience. That they don't want to be stuck in the kitchen making a lot of fussy recipes, and they need things that are quick and easy. So what you could do with this coleslaw recipe is buy a head of green cabbage and a head of purple cabbage and some carrots and cut them up yourself. You could use a grater, you could put them in a food processor, and if you want to do that, that's great. You get a lot for your money that way, and you could even cut them up with a knife into little thin pieces. But what I like to do is buy coleslaw mix all ready to go in the grocery store. And if I can find it, I like to get the kind that has the green cabbage and some purple cabbage and carrots. Because again, all those colors really are different phytonutrients and different antioxidants. And it's really good for fighting cancer and to give our immune system a boost, which is something we all are concerned about around now. This recipe works with about 14 to 16 ounces of prepared coleslaw mix. And all they had were the 8-ounce bags. So I went ahead and bought 2 of them. And we eat a lot of coleslaw. So for us, this would feed about 4 or 5 people. And I'm gonna recycle those. Now let's make the dressing. This is where the yumminess comes in. And instead of using sugar to give the dressing the sweet flavor, what I use is apple juice concentrate. So I'm going to go into our refrigerator here. And I keep apple juice and orange juice concentrate in our freezer. I don't use it to make juice. I use it to make dressings. It's a nice way to get sweetness from fruit without using something like white sugar. And I'm just going to get a little bowl here, and I start with a 1/4 cup of apple juice concentrate. Now you don't mix it with water, you just use the concentrate straight. So again, similar to the maple syrup, we are getting some sweetness here, but we're also getting flavor from the apples. And we're also getting some vitamin C, which reminds me, I want you to realize that the nutrition facts labels on food often don't include phytonutrients and antioxidants because they don't have to. They only list the things that the government requires them to put on there. So for instance, if you look at a package of pre-made applesauce, it might look like it has some, might have a little vitamin C, it'll have some carbohydrates, a little bit of fiber, and that's about it. And you might look at that applesauce and think, well, there's not much here, there's not much going on, it's not that healthy. But it's really not true because there are a lot of phytochemicals, a lot of antioxidants in those apples that don't show up on the label. So remember that when you're looking at the labels. Every time you're eating fruits and veggies, you're getting all that good stuff. And you're also getting fiber. And fiber is so important for our health. I'll talk about that more in a minute. Now, I'm going to use some pre-made vegan mayo. You could also make an oil-free mayo using tofu. And you use tofu and a little bit of salt and some vinegar and mix it up in a little food processor or blender. And that tastes good too. But because, we do low fat, because we're battling Marc's diabetes, we don't want that to come back. But because this is going to be divided up, it's not going to add a whole lot of oil by using a few tablespoons of the mayo. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and include that. And now I'm going to use seasoned rice vinegar. That's going to give us the sour. We got the sweet from the apple juice concentrate, and we get the sour from the seasoned rice vinegar. You can find this in the Asian section of grocery stores. Seasoned rice vinegar has a little sugar, and it has a little salt added, so it's a little bit more pleasant to taste. But if you didn't want that, you could certainly go ahead and use plain rice vinegar. I'm just going to grab a tablespoon measure. in here. Okay, so we'll add a tablespoon, actually 2 tablespoons of seasoned rice vinegar. This also makes a great salad dressing just straight. So when we eat salads, which we do a lot, we're very careful about using dressings that have low fat or no fat. And vinegar is a nice way to do that. So seasoned rice vinegar works well. You can also use balsamic vinegar. You could even, another thing I like to do is I use my orange juice concentrate or apple juice concentrate. I put like a tablespoon of the concentrate in a little cup. I put in a couple tablespoons of seasoned rice vinegar, mix it up, and put that on my salad. That tastes really good, and it's really quick and easy. And you know, when you use bottled salad dressings, a lot of times they are really full of oil. And as Marc was talking about, we're trying to get that oil down because it's really not good for his health or my health either. I'm going to add a tablespoon of, this is tamari, but you could use soy sauce, you could use Bragg's liquid aminos, whatever you like. So there's the soy sauce. And now I'm going to use fresh ginger. And I want to show you how I do that. When I come home from the grocery store and I bought ginger root, I clean it really well right away and I scrub it. And then I put it in the freezer so it lasts a long time. And then when I want to use it in recipes, I pull it out of the freezer. And if the skin is okay and isn't really thick or funky looking, I don't bother peeling my ginger. In fact, I don't peel a lot of my veggies that a lot of people peel. I think it's an unnecessary step a lot of the time, and it just makes life easier. So I just pull it straight out like that, and I use my microplane, and I add the ginger. I'm just going to eyeball it. I need about, what would be about a tablespoon. Now, ginger has been used historically to help digestion. It can help with bloating, it can help a nauseous feeling, and it kind of revs up our digestive system and helps everything get soothed. So it's really nice to use ginger with this coleslaw because sometimes cabbage can be hard to digest, and the ginger will help you with that. Also, it has a really nice, like a vibrant, fresh taste to it. I love the taste of ginger, and it smells so good. Yeah, thank you. Marc's gonna stir up our sloppy joes. So then with a fork, I'm just gonna stir this really good. The last thing I need to add is 2 cloves of minced garlic. And so for the sloppy joes, I chop my own garlic. And that's fine, I do that a lot, but another thing I like is to buy garlic in the little jars that's already minced or chopped. That makes life a little bit easier. And about a half a teaspoon is about the same as a clove. So I'm going to need a teaspoon. That's another way to make it more convenient because I know people like fast and easy and convenient. But also you want to eat in a healthful way and you want it to taste good. So all these little tricks can help you get where you want to be. And how am I doing that time? Looks like we're okay. So I just mix that with a fork. You could use a whisk. And I do that until it starts to look smooth. And then I just pour it on top of the coleslaw. Now, with this coleslaw, you know, I just use the packaged kind that is so quick and easy. Sometimes I just want it to be easy peasy. I don't want to cut a bunch of veggies. But if you feel like it, some things that would taste really good added are some sliced celery, some sliced green onion, maybe some chopped red onion, some celery seed would taste good, or whatever you have that you like. So you can, you know, adjust it to use what you have on hand and to make it taste good to you. So there we go. That's coleslaw came together fast. All right, I'm going to put all this aside. I'll put it back here. Okay, now the moment that I've been waiting for is to make these cookie dough balls. They are really yummy. I hope you like them as much as we do. And they're full of ingredients you can feel good about. They're also filling. So give me just a second here to put this away. Draw this over. The sloppy Joe mix is ready and waiting for us, but we're just going to do the cookie dough balls first. Now, the main ingredient here is some sort of seed or nut butter. When we make these for demos at like events or at those medical schools, I like to use sunflower seed butter because there are a lot of nut allergies, and I want everybody to be able to enjoy it. So you can use sunflower seed butter if you like it. That tastes really good. You could use almond butter. What we use at home is peanut butter. So let me get that out here. And I don't need this anymore, so let me need this. Okay. So this is our peanut butter. Good, better, best again. Just so you're aware, some peanut butter has added trans fat to it. And some of the big famous brands that everybody loves have added trans fats, and we're trying to avoid trans fats. Those really aren't good for our bodies. They really clog up our circulatory system. So we try to find peanut butter that has very few ingredients. And this one here, the only ingredient, peanuts. So I love this one. It's from, it's called Crazy Richard's. So that's what we go for. And it does have, you know, we try to do low fat, but we do have treats once in a while. And it's okay to have them once in a while, but you just, you know thyself. If having a treat like this is going to throw you off and you're not going to be able to stop, then you might want to use other things for desserts, like nice cream, which is blended fruit, or a smoothie, or a fruit salad, something like that. But now let's get started making our cookie dough balls. We start with half a cup of peanut butter or nut butter. And these cookie dough balls are nice and creamy. They really melt in your mouth. And unlike real cookie dough, there are no eggs involved here, so you don't have to worry about getting salmonella poisoning from eggs. You can eat this cookie dough. In fact, even if you were making another vegan cookie recipe, that means there'd be no eggs involved, so you can eat the dough. You don't have to worry about it. And I love that about vegan cooking and baking. Now I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of real maple syrup. Let me check this. I'm going to turn this down even more. It's just going to have to be patient. It's ready to be in there. So 3 tablespoons of real maple syrup. It adds that nice flavor, and like I said before, it is a step above using white sugar. It has some phytonutrients in there that are good for your eyes, actually. You can feel good about that. And now I'm going to add vanilla extract, just half a teaspoon. I think that really helps it taste like cookie dough, adding that vanilla. If you're making nice cream in a blender, which I just mentioned, VegMichigan has a nice video about that on YouTube if you want to look at that. Sometimes I like to add vanilla to my nice cream to make it taste more like real ice cream, and it tastes very good. So this smells good too. Now I'm going to add oats. Oats are really kind of special. They have some antioxidants that you really can't find hardly anywhere else that help fight inflammation. So we try to eat some sort of oats every day. And this is a delicious way to get some oats in. Now, when we make them for breakfast, we usually have old-fashioned rolled oats because we like the texture of those. But for this recipe, we are using quick oats. Now, what that is it's rolled oats, but they've been chopped up into smaller pieces so that it cooks faster. And it just has a nicer texture for these cookie dough balls, because if you had a big, big flakes of oatmeal, it really wouldn't taste right. It wouldn't taste enough like cookie dough to me. So I just use raw, quick cooked oats, and we're going to use half a cup. And now I'm going to add a dash of salt. All right, mix that up. The last thing I will add are the chocolate chips. And again, I like the smaller pieces of oats. I like because the smaller chips just work better in this recipe. If you had big chunks of chocolate chips, they wouldn't really stick together as much. But if that's all you have, it'll be all right. If you can, use mini chocolate chips. And there are a lot of chocolate chips out there that are vegan. This is Enjoy Life brand. They're also nut-free and gluten-free, the Enjoy Life brand. And they make a nice mini chocolate chip that I like to use. But there are other chocolate chips out there that are sort of vegan by accident as well. Okay, and now these are ready. You can see it looks a lot like cookie dough. I'm going to clear this stuff out of the way. I'm going to ask Marc to come and help me. And then in the cookie dough balls. This is kind of a moment when you're cooking at home, when you can get people involved so that they appreciate it more. Especially would love to do this. And this makes about 12 cookie balls that are about the size of a cherry. So the way I know how much to use is I divide it in half, and then I divide it in fourths, and I know from each fourth I need about 3 cookie dough balls. That way I just kind of eyeball it. And take a chunk, and you just roll them up. They smell good too, don't they?
Really good.
And they taste good whether you use the sunflower seed butter or almond butter or peanut butter. They all taste good. I've tried them all different ways.
I wish you guys were here with us so you could
I do
taste these.
too.
They're so good.
All right, let's see how we're doing on time. Okay. I want to make sure I leave time for questions and answers at the end. One thing I wanted to get to that I didn't mention yet, so I want to throw it in there, is some people think that eating this way is very pricey. And it doesn't have to be. In fact, we save about 30% on our grocery bill by eating plant-based. And that's because we're buying things that are really good value and really inexpensive, like bags of potatoes and brown rice and pasta and fresh fruits and veggies that are in season. If you bought a lot of pre-made, processed, packaged vegan meals or frozen dinners or things like that, you could spend a lot of money, especially if you get into those fancy plant-based cheeses. And that's okay, if you want to do that, but you don't have to. And you can save a lot of money by eating this way. So if you consider our grocery bill, we've saved thousands of dollars. But then if you consider the doctor's visit for Marc's health issues and the prescriptions, we have saved tens of thousands of dollars by eating this way. So please don't think has to be complicated or it's too expensive. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah, we actually gave ourselves a raise. We improved our health, and now we're doing a lot better.
Yeah, definitely.
Really good stuff.
And also, these foods that you saw us create here tonight are full of fiber, and fiber is really important to our bodies. First of all, it fills us up. It fills up our tummies. It helps us feel full and satiated. So that helps people maintain a healthy weight. It also helps move the food through our digestive tract, and it doesn't sort of get stuck there. It moves right through, it moves on, and that helps our bodies eliminate toxins as well. So fiber is very important. We also are getting plenty of protein by eating this way. Did you want to talk about protein?
So that's the one thing. What the first question you get asked is, where do you get your protein? And there's a bunch of protein in the plant-based world. All of the plant-based world the foods have protein. Some more than others, But at the end of the day, when I was playing football back at Michigan, and ever since 5th grade playing football, that was one of the things that was, bled into me was you need a lot of protein. Make sure you're eating big steaks and pieces of chicken, and that'll keep you big and strong. And I'm sure that eating all those foods is what helped cause me to have diabetes and all those health conditions that I ended up having after, a decade of being sick. So you'll get plenty of protein if you're eating enough calories, mixing up, we call it eat the rainbow, all the different colors of the plant-based world, the yellows, the greens, the reds, the purples, the blues, all of it. Your body's going to thrive and it's going to do very well. And keep in mind, I think back to when I was playing football and eating steak, and if we think about that protein, we see this big piece of steak and we see protein. That's what we think of, right? That's how we've all been, ever since we were little, right? If you need protein, that's steak. If you need calcium, that comes from cow's milk. If you need good omega, good fats, that's going to come from fish. Well, the bottom line is you can get all that from the plant-based world, and more importantly, you're not getting the cholesterol, you're not getting saturated fat, you're not getting all of these problematic issues that your body has when we eat those foods. So we eliminate that, and like Kim said, fiber is only found in the plant-based world. All the animal products have 0 fiber, and some of the best guesses is about 93 to 95% of people do not get enough fiber. They're eating way too little fiber. So eat the plant-based world, mix it up, and your body's going to love you for it.
Yeah, true. And another thing I wanted to add before we put our plate together is that, as you can see, you really don't need any fancy or special equipment. All you really need, and all we really were using when we went plant-based or vegan, was a cutting board. You need a good chef's knife, like the one you saw me use, and a paring knife. And then it helps you have some sort of blender. With the blender, you can make sauces, and you can make smoothies and things like that. But you don't really need to spend a lot on fancy kitchen equipment. So don't worry about that either. Of course, those things are nice if you want to invest in a pressure cooker or a Vitamix or something like that. That's fine. That'll help, but you don't have to. So don't worry about that. Now, would you like to build a sloppy joe?
Are you going to put coleslaw on it, or just?
However you want. This will be yours. So do it how you like. And
how I like it.
I know you do. That looks really good.
Put some of this on top.
Sure. I'll get you a fork.
And then I can't forget my desserts.
Yeah. So there you go, guys.
Yeah,
Look at that.
I'll put it up here.
It's really hot, so I don't know if you should taste test it yet, but
I don't know if you can see it. I'm trying to put it in the camera's view here so you can see it. But really, really good, really tasty. It looks like regular meat, and it tastes, I'm sure, fantastic, because we've made this a lot. So I am going to, even though it's really hot,
you are going to test it. So this vegan sloppy joe recipe, the first time I had it was in a Food for Life class that our friend Gigi taught, and she shared this recipe. And what we did is we tweaked it a little bit and made it sort of customized for the flavors that we like the best. And that's what you can do too, adjust these things so it tastes good to you.
Yeah, you can eat it with a fork, put the other bun on top. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So that's it. If you guys want to go into questions and answers, it looks like we have
you answer the questions. I'll keep reading.
Okay.
Okay? So Olivia, I think, if you want to follow us at Chickpea and Bean, we are on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Olivia, I don't know if you can share that.
Yes.
Basically, thank you, Olivia.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can see you. We are a nonprofit organization, like Kim said. We don't take a salary. We are just trying to help people understand the power and benefits of what can happen if we really just start fueling these amazing machines that each one of us own with the right foods. You'll be amazed at what you and your bodies can do if we just feed it the right foods. And we have seen and helped hundreds and hundreds of people over these last 8, almost 9 years do what I've done. People hear my story and they say, "Oh, wow, that's amazing. It's incredible." And I tell them, "Look, I'm no different than you, right? It's just, I was just sick of being sick, and I wanted to change my trajectory. And so if I can do this, I promise you, I'm no more special than any one of you listening to this right now. And if I can do it, this macho football, guy that always wanted meat and animal products on my plate, if I can do it, I know you can too. And you'll be amazed at what can happen, the transformative effects that it can have on your body. So,
Yeah, it's true.
thank you so much, VegMichigan. Thank you for Wayne Public Library. And yeah, we're open for questions if anyone has it.
All right. Thanks so much, both of you. It was wonderful, and it looks very delicious. I'm excited to try the recipes out for myself. Two quick things I just wanted to mention before we get to the question and answer is some people have been asking about if this is being recorded, and yes, it is. A couple ways to get the recording are it is going to be on the Wayne Public Library website and their YouTube page. And I believe at least clips of it will be on the VegMichigan YouTube page as well. But you can also either give me your email in the chat right now and I can record it and send it to you, or you can send me an email if you want to get it at olivia@vegmichigan.org, and I am sending that to you all as well right now. So if anyone, wants to rewatch this or share it with your friends and family, we'll definitely have it recorded. So I'll make sure to get that for you guys. And then just secondly, I'm going to send the link to our survey as well. Just a couple questions. If we can get your feedback of the presentation, that'd be wonderful because we really want to get you guys what you want. All right. Okay. So we did have some questions already throughout the presentation. So we'll start with those. And yes, feel free to continue asking questions in the chat. So the first one is someone asked, what temperature is the pot set at for the Sloppy Joe recipe? What heat are you putting that at?
I had it at about 320. And then once I was done cooking and I wanted it to simmer, I brought it down to about 250.
All right. Someone else asked, what brand is the crumbles you got and where to buy it? I know you showed that already. If you could show that, it's available to show that again and just let people know where you purchased that.
I'll hold it up to the camera. So this is by a company called Light Life. Yeah. I find this in the produce department, and it's usually near the faux meats and the tofu. So that's where I find it. There are some other brands too. Morningstar makes crumbles, Gardein makes crumbles. Those are in the freezer section. Beyond Meat makes crumbles. That's also usually in the freezer section. So try the freezer section too. But these I found in the produce.
Yeah, and be careful too when you're looking at it, at any of these products. I mean, again, if you are trying to watch the fat like we do, some of them have a lot more fat than others. So this one is very low in fat. It's only 1.5 grams per serving. So just be cognizant or careful of that. But it's a great choice.
Yeah, it's non-GMO, and the sodium isn't crazy high. So that's why we go with this one.
All right. And someone just asked, sort of to piggyback off that question, they asked what's in the crumbles. If you could just say, like, what's the main ingredient?
So,
you can use all the good protein.
Yeah, the main is soy protein. Water and then soy protein. And then there are some other things, salt and natural flavors, garlic, molasses, but the main ingredient is soy. Not all the crumbles have soy as the main ingredient. So if you're trying to avoid soy, you can look for some that's maybe made from gluten. There are some products out there like that too. If you want to do more natural, you could really even make this with jackfruit. The texture would be different and be more shredded, but that would taste good too. And then of course you could do the lentils like I talked about.
All right. Janet asked, what type or brand of cooking pot are you using?
So this is a Salad Master. It's a really, I love it. It's a high quality pot made from stainless steel. And it's not non-stick, but it's because it's, the way it's made is sort of like low stick. So I try to avoid cookware made from aluminum because that's associated with Alzheimer's. So of course we're trying to avoid Alzheimer's. I try to use cookware made from stainless steel when I can.
Okay, and then the last question that we have so far is what brand of vegan chocolate chips are you using? I don't know if you want to say what you're using now and maybe you have a couple other recommendations and where you can find them.
So I'll let you show that and I'll get the other
Sure.
one.
So this is one. It's made by a company called Enjoy Life. Let me see if I'm. It's called Enjoy Life is the name of the company, and they're basically just semi-sweet chocolate chips. So this is one, and they have these. We find these at Meyer. I believe Kroger has them. You can find them in the specialty shops like Better Health as well.
And then this is another one. These are like regular sized chocolate chips. This is from Meyer. These are sort of vegan by accident or organic chocolate chips. And Kroger has some vegan by accident chocolate chips as well.
And who's it? Hershey?
Nestle.
Nestle.
Nestle also has like a really simple chocolate chip that I think only has 3 ingredients. And those are also sort of plant-based or vegan by accident.
Yeah. The one thing you'll have to do is just be mindful of the ingredients because one time, who was it? Ghirardelli?
Ghirardelli, yeah, they used to have vegan chocolate chips for a long time, and they changed their recipe and started adding milk fat to them. So we were disappointed about that. What the government does is it sort of rewards companies for putting dairy in their products. I think that's what probably happened there is they got some sort of kickback for adding milk product to their chocolate chips. And now we don't eat them. So we were kind of bummed out to see they started doing that.
But there's plenty of choices. There's
Yeah.
plenty of options. So don't feel Kroger, Meyer, the specialty shops. You're going to find them. So you should be okay.
I believe the ones I usually get are from Trader Joe's, and I think they have a couple kinds, but at least one of them are accidentally vegan as well. So, and they're very, very reasonably priced, cheaper than some other brands that I've found. So
Oh, that's
I
good.
recommend those as well if you have a Trader Joe's near you.
Yes, I love Trader Joe's.
Absolutely. It looks like that is all of the questions I'm seeing. If I've missed anyone's question, please let me know again. Yeah, but that looks like it's it. And I recorded several people's emails for the to get the recording. And if I don't send you the email, feel free to just check the Wayne Public Library for their they're going to be posting the recording as well. And yeah.
If I can just say a couple of last things, Olivia, and that is that, this is one recipe. Kim also has one pot Mexican quinoa recipe. She has a lentil loaf. There's a whole bunch of other recipes on our website that, you'll find are delicious. They're going to be whole food plant-based. There are some desserts like this one, that, again, we eat them, not every day, all the time, because, again, they are higher in fat, but as a treat, special occasions or if you really just need something sweet. But there's a whole slew of other recipes that Kim has on our website if you're interested.
Yes, and I just want to say thank you, Wayne Public Library, and thank you, VegMichigan, and thank you, everybody who is watching. We really appreciate it. We hope this helped. And keep in touch with us, email us, let us know how you're doing.
Yeah.
And we're really grateful that you joined us.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Yes,
Bye-bye.
thank you. Bye.
Adios.
Bye.
Adios. Thank you.
Eat plants.
Yes.